This is Michael Goslin with Zunesis. I'm the CTO of Zunesis. And we're going to talk about VDI today. Joe Vidal will be our speaker going forward. But before we get to that, we're going to just introduce you to Zunesis. We've been a reseller in the Denver area since 2004. We've been a platinum partner with HPE since inception. Our vision is to make the lives of our customers better and to make the lives of those living in our community better. We do that by partnering with our customers and partnering with the community through different Habitat for Humanity, for example. Our customers are located in the Rocky Mountain region, Colorado, Nevada, Utah, Montana, Wyoming. We do have offices in Colorado and in Nevada. So the technical expertise of why Zunesis. Our technical expertise, we average about 24 plus years on the technical team, and we've got people, engineers from 31 years all the way down. So I'm one of those that actually brings that average up quite a bit. So we've been doing this for a long time. We are Tech Elite 250, which is an award. We've been 11 years in a row. It's an award we don't apply for. It's an award that's given to us by our partners. And they put our name in, and we're very proud of that. We've also been recognized as one of the top 200 private companies in Colorado. So our approach is really around teamwork, collaboration, and communication. We put the customer first. We will always be the advocate for the customer. That's how we operate. That's how we want to work with our customers. We also do a lot of assessments and health checks. So when I say assessments, when it comes to VDI, we will help you architect the environment. We will help you look at the performance and really do that assessment of what needs to happen and how that environment should be architected to give you the IO and the requirements that you're looking to solve. So our customer base, these are some of the customers we work with today, and we have done VDI solutions for, as well as assessments for. I'm not going to go into these individually, but you can see there's some very well-known names on this list. Some of these are current VDI implementations going on right now. They've also looking at very high-end VDI solutions using GPUs, which is an area that we see growing rapidly. Traditionally, I'd say years ago, the CAD, CAM drawings, high-end video was not a good fit for VDI, but today we're doing a lot more of that type of work. So that is has become a area that we're getting a lot of interest right now in that. So with that, I'm going to introduce Joe and let him take over with what HPE has to offer.
All right. Well, thank you, Michael. And I can't say enough about what Zunesis brings to the table when it comes to technical assessments, technical expertise, and specifically market expertise in the markets in the area. And we'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the session. In the meantime, I'd like to speak a little bit about the market trends that are happening today, what it is that COVID-19 has, what dynamics it's changed today, and really how that's changed decision-making process and really, you say, accelerated or kind of pushed VDI into the forefront of our decision-making process and options, along with some good public cloud and or bad public cloud things that have been happening. And obviously security is a main threat and or issue dynamic that everyone should be thinking about. But right now, a lot of folks are thinking about, what can I do to ensure that, hey, I get to continue to work from home for the rest of my working career, right? 56% of people that are polled say that they want to work remote all the time. And of course, 78% of workers like to have at least the flexibility. And the bottom line is that the pandemic accelerated this transformation from a mostly traditional IT environment where most of the companies had most of their IT in traditional data centers. And probably 60 to 65% of companies had 80% of their infrastructure in a locally defined data center. Of course, as we all know, more than 66% of all 80/20 statistics are made up on the spot. That one was not. I just want to clarify that. but more importantly, the top concern is, of course, keeping employees and customers safe throughout this environment, throughout this experience. And that's really kind of important because right now, the decision-making factors in what employees think about versus what employers are thinking about, the dynamics that are driving those decision-making processes are very, very different, right? So those of us as employees are looking to share our knowledge, collaborate, right? We're working on and looking at innovation. We want to be empowered. We're thinking about empowerment for our customers and for our own careers, right? Meanwhile, the employers out there, business leaders out there are thinking about employee health and safety. And first and foremost, not only and aside from the employee health and safety, is the health and safety of our customers. Because let's face it, most of us are in business to do business with someone, and it's a lot easier to do business with someone when you can see that someone face to face, right? So these are really, really important things. And let me just say first and foremost, this is not a talking head section. I don't want this to be like a just a webinar that's more like a podcast, and all you're doing is hearing me talk. Everybody loves the smooth scramblings of Joe Vidal on the air, but let's face it, we don't, right? I'd rather have you ask questions. So let's make this interactive, please. If you have any questions along the way, I am going to be talking about the different types of virtual desktop infrastructure. We're going to talk about a lot of acronyms, and hopefully I'll remember to actually define each one of them before I introduce a new one. But we'll talk about the difference between VDI and HDI and HCI and how those play in your environments. And we're talking about virtual desktop infrastructure versus hosted desktop infrastructure, and then leveraging traditional IT or traditional public cloud versus a hybrid cloud versus private cloud. And then what type of traditional IT infrastructure, rack mount, pedestal mount, or maybe HCI host hyper-converged infrastructure or appliances that are deployed in clusters. So we'll talk about all these things and how they can be leveraged to deliver the right VDI solution for you so that we can actually deliver on all of these needs while reducing the workplace cost and, more importantly, ensuring that the right levels of security are always there. And when we think about security, the first thing that comes to mind for me is healthcare and finance, right? So in healthcare and finance, you have to have the utmost of security. And let's face it, when it comes to oil and gas, as we all know now, control of the oil and gas facilities and those geological resources and getting them to where they need to go, aka a pipeline, can be critically important to not just the companies that are touching that pipeline, but to all of us, because it touches our daily lives, right? It drives how much we're going to spend when you're about to go on vacation for the holidays or for the summer, and somebody happened to hack into the pipeline that delivers 50% plus of all of the oil and gas to the Eastern Seaboard, and nearly 100% of the jet fuel that goes to Atlanta Hartsfield Airport happens to be my local airport, right? So these are important things. Security is critically important. When you're talking about healthcare for surgical suites and security for surgical suites, can we deliver a VDI solution for a surgical suite, which is a pre-surgery scrub-in area for the doctors to quickly look up and look at the surgery that they're about to deliver or do, right, or perform, and they want to look over the patient's history. They want to look over any known allergies and things like this, so to make sure that the anesthesiologist isn't accidentally applying an anesthesia that the patient has an allergy to. We've seen scenarios where hospitals were affected via data breach. And in times of critical importance, they may have and did have, in fact, patients on ready to be and prepped for surgery. And yet they were cut off from the patient history. So therefore, they could not see last minute information about allergies. Therefore, they could not go forward with that. Or maybe they had to quickly finish whatever surgical procedure they were doing. These are things where security and the right solution are critically important. In fact, it can save or not lives, right? Lives matter. And the data matters. So when you're working on site versus working anywhere versus working remote, understand that I need to secure the entire data chain from corporate to the edge or from edge to cloud. And Hewlett Packard Enterprise has been keenly focused on delivering the right edge to cloud solutions and delivering everything as a service, whether that's VDI, whether that's SAP as a service, whether that is database as a service, infrastructure as a service, storage as a service, compute as a service, literally anything as a service. The key here is that 26% of people out there believe that the workplace will be and has been permanently changed, while 51% that business travel, of course, is permanently changed. I would say that that number is old, and I would say that more than 80 to 85% of all business travelers know and feel and knows for certain business travel has changed permanently, right? If we have 35 to 55% of all former in-office workers are never going back to the office, and by the way, that's not Joe or Jove at all saying that. That's Gartner, that's IDC saying that, right? And that number has gone up from the beginning or mid through COVID. Now at the end of COVID, we were looking at 35%. Now we're looking at closer to 55% of people are saying they'll probably never go back to the office. And they don't need to. So that's changing all kinds of dynamics, right? So for those of us that were forced to implement VDI or implement VMs as a last minute emergency effort in order to stand up enough VMs or VDI to send your employees home at the beginning of COVID, literally 12 months ago this week, right? So as we did this 12 months ago this week, you may have had to deprovision or reprovision maybe your app dev environments or part of your DR environments, thinking that this was just going to be a 1 month, 2 month, or at most 3 month disorder in the IT workplace. And now we know it's been a year, and guess what? You're probably never getting that infrastructure back, and you're probably looking at a better way to deploy those VDI resources on a more secure, more permanent environment with a lower cost than what you had to do last minute. But more importantly, you find yourself without any budget for part of or all of FY21 because you were forced to use that budget in FY20 at the beginning of COVID to stand up those VMs or VDI instances in the first place. So we have solutions that are going to help you fix that. Meanwhile, we can do resource consolidation. We can help you with that, right? More importantly, Zunisys can help you with that. We can help with an assessment to identify and profile the workloads that you're running in those VDIs or in those VMs, right? And we can lower the administration overhead. We can make it more flexible. We can make it better. We can rebuild it and make it better than it was before, just like the $6 million man, right? More importantly, we can enhance the security and guarantee the security from edge to cloud or from edge to wherever your virtual data center resources might reside. And when we can right size those applications so that you don't have to be concerned about, let's just say the ingress fee is free, egress fee not so much. For those of you that aren't familiar with the terms ingress and egress, let me explain those real quickly. Hopefully you're Seinfeld fans. If you remember the car rental, I think it was called the rental experience episode, but nonetheless, they talk about, rental car agencies taking reservations. You get a reservation, you get a reservation, you get a reservation. Everybody, they're taking reservations. Millie Willie, it would take all the reservations. It's not the reservation, it's keeping the reservation that's key. Well, right now, all of your public data center, public cloud service providers, well, they're taking your data and they're taking that data willy-nilly and they'll take it for practically free, right? They'll take it for 5 to 6 cents per gigabyte. But you want that data back? Oh, you want to keep the reservation? No, you want to get that data back and download that data? Well, that's going to cost you via egress fees. And that's kind of the cha-ching factor and the wow factor of public cloud, that a lot of people have realized that if you want to back up to the cloud, that's great. But at some point in time in the future, you may actually need to restore from the cloud. And in doing that, you're downloading gigabytes, and terabytes, and maybe even more of data. And that's going to cost you, unfortunately, dearly at the time you need it the most and the time you don't need to spend that money, right? So we can help you reduce those costs. We can help you get back those costs, rein them in, and do away with all those data egress fees, all while simplifying the management of the solution. Now, when we talk about VDI or virtual desktop infrastructure, that's virtualizing a desktop so that you don't have all your employees carrying around corporate data with them on their laptops, whether they're going home or sitting at home right now. Have you ensured that that home network of that employer is secured? Is it encrypted? Are they using secured, let's say, WEP or WPA1 or WPA2 encryption? Is it easy to guess the SSID or guess the secure PIN in order to get onto that network? Are they going to be the target of a spear phishing attack where someone drops a USB stick off in their garage, or sorry, their driveway, and it says Dad's photos, and Johnny, Jimmy, or Joey, yeah, pick that up. They say, "Oh, it's Dad's pics. Let's plug it in and see if that has any pictures of me on there." Right, and lo and behold, unbeknownst to them, they've now installed a keylogger on the home network that just waits for Dad to log into the corporate network, and now they're in. I'm not making these stories up, folks. This is exactly what happened. It's actually how, let's just say, a government agency around the world got into a nuclear facility and shut them down from being a threat to the United States. But that's another story entirely. Let's talk about task workers, knowledge workers, and power users, okay? Let me ask for you. So we had a question. We're obviously going to be sending a question. So we have a question of the group. Do you have a slide that says that with 50% workers not returning to work? I can send that to you with the quotes from IDC and Gartner. So someone out there is asking if we have a slide that shows where 50% of workers are not returning to work. I have one in one of my other decks with the quotes from IDC, and it's actually 55%. So I'll be glad to, we'll send that out on the follow-up, Rachel, and I'll cover that at the end. But thank you for those questions. I want to make sure that you do keep sending those questions in. I'll answer them as I can along the way, and understand that when we're looking at common use cases, so there's typically three types of users. There's task workers, which are very low end on the VDI technical totem pole. Doesn't take much. They're typically using browsers or a database entry. This could be point of sale devices. Now, the difference between a point of sale device, while it doesn't take much by way of graphics and certainly no GPU enhancer acceleration required, it does require a very high end and highly available connection or network connection, and probably a redundant network connection, especially if that's a banking teller point of sale device or a banking teller device that's being run by VDI. And yes, we absolutely do those, and we can have multiple network connections and a standby network connection that can be popped up as needed. This is one of those things that we do with Silver Peak, by the way, with SD-WAN. So software-defined wide area networking capabilities has come such a long way with workflow automation and the ability to stand up and tear down temporary wide area network links as needed as a secondary or back-end emergency connectivity methodology. And these are things that we're doing regularly now. These are solutions that are now enabling us to do VDI in areas where we couldn't have done them before. Now, above the task workers, we have knowledge workers. And knowledge workers are someone that might be a regular office worker, remote learning, customer service, collaborative groups. You can read the slides as well as I can. Back office applications, that would be like Microsoft Office, Office 365, that kind of thing. Now, the power users are the CAD, CAM, engineering, designs, 3D modeling, researchers. You might not realize it, but financial advisors and financial traders need the utmost in speed, because a few milliseconds in a financial transaction might be the difference between making millions of dollars and losing millions of dollars if somebody else made that trade before you did and suddenly drove the price up exorbitantly and you missed your opportunity. So these are areas where a knowledge worker then might be able to take advantage or need to take advantage of GPU acceleration or graphical processor unit GPU acceleration, whether that's a single GPU or all the way up to maybe even 8 GPUs on a system that then can be time sliced. Now, with the work that Hewlett Packard Enterprise and NVIDIA have done to do GPU time slicing and GPU sharing, there's a lot of things we can do now that we couldn't do years ago. So we then get into the solutions for VDI. So let's talk about what are some of those solutions. When we look at rapid remote working, we're looking at solutions from Microsoft and Citrix delivered by HPE Pointnext. They can also be delivered by Zunisys, right? So Zunisys, as our service and delivery partner, they can do these assessments. They can do these and implement the solution as well on your behalf. More importantly, we can deliver enterprise-grade VDI for Citrix and VMware, whether you're using a persistent or non-persistent client. Now, the difference there, and I'm trying to cover a lot of these things at the high level just so that you hear the buzzwords, right, and understand when you hear them what they really mean. So when I talk about a persistent client, that means a virtual client that when connected has the exact same settings, setup, applications, and everything on their screen that they did the last time they logged in when they logged out. It remembers where they were and what they're connected to. A persistent client may also have localized variables in the persistent client connectivity script that acquiesces where they're connecting from, recognizing that they're connecting from the Alpharetta office versus the Chicago office versus the LA office versus the New York office, and automatically maps them to the local printers for secured encrypted print technology if they're going to be printing off confidential documents, like you might need to do in a lawyer's office. In fact, we've done this for, I wish I could share the names, multiple different legal offices around the world, where we have attorneys going in and being able to print things, but sent them to a print spooler that's confidential and waits for them to key in their 4-digit code at the printer, and then it spits it out. So these are solutions where we've partnered with our former sister in IT Solutions, and that's Hewlett Packard Inc., right? HP Inc. doing all the client solutions and the printing, and Hewlett Packard Enterprise doing all the back end systems, the compute, the servers, the storage, the networking, and the services. We still partner very, very well together. And of course, Zunesis resells and solutions all of those things together. And thankfully, we can now also scale up and scale down in an agile fashion, deliver you the agility of public cloud, but with the controls of traditional IT. And we call that GreenLake. HPE GreenLake enables us to bring a private cloud experience to you. It is literally the cloud that comes to you, but more importantly, it gives you access to all of your clouds via cloud dashboard or a GreenLake central dashboard that gives you visibility to Amazon public, Amazon private. It'll give you visibility to Azure public, Azure private. It'll give you visibility to Google public, Google private, and pretty much any other cloud that you might have out there, including multiple VMware Cloud Federation instances or other GreenLake instances in multiple environments. We'll give you access to that and be able to control it. Now, we all know that no one application or no two applications are designed the same, which is why you can't have a one size fits all scenario when it comes to compute and storage to deliver VDI. I already called out the three different types of workers in the three different, task, knowledge, and performance worker, we'll call it. But there's a whole lot of other solutions out there that are small, medium, large in each of those three categories. And it's not just simply small, medium, large. Then there's GPU accelerated in each of those small, medium, large environments as well. And which is why we have the ability then to deliver things like server-based compute that we might do on Synergy with our composable framework, or the traditional HP ProLiant servers, or I'll deliver VDI versus an 8VN HCI solution. That's a hyper-converged appliance like SimpliVity. SimpliVity is known because what it does is it does compression, deduplication, optimization, online, inline, real time, all the time. That's compression, deduplication, optimization, online, inline, real time, all the time. What that means is you only ever have to write a unique block of data once, unless you choose to write it 2 times so that you have redundancy, or maybe 3 times for remote redundancy as well. All of that's built in, including VM backup. So we guarantee that you can back up and or restore an up to 1 gig VM in less than 30 seconds. And we do that time and time again. And by the way, it's a time-based guarantee that if we ever fall outside that timeline, we'll give you the initial infrastructure for free, and the licensing to go with it, in order to make sure that you're staying within that 30-second time frame. Now, when we talk about, and I'm sorry, it's a 60-second time frame. We normally beat it by delivering it in 30 seconds, but it's a 60-second guarantee. Now, as far as HCI powered ProLiant DX, that's a Nutanix powered ProLiant server running HCI with Nutanix software on HP ProLiant, so that you get the advantage of all of our added security and our silicon root of trust that's garnered an award by Marsh, the Cybersecurity Data Underwriters Association, that oversees a lot of or that gives standards guidance to all of the cybersecurity insurance service providers, such that it happened recently that the insurance provider that was overseeing a hospital that unfortunately got hacked, and as you can go out there on YouTube and do a search on hospital and HPE and or maybe some other names, and you can find out that they were hacked, and that for whatever reason the HP servers did not go down when everything else did. Lo and behold, it's because they had implemented HP SimpliVity and or our solutions are Gen 10 servers that are guaranteed to be unhackable, so the firmware cannot be hacked and they cannot be bricked, like what happened recently, or what happened to this particular hospital. Lo and behold, the insurance service provider, after paying the ransom to get back their data, that was outside of the HPE purview. They then replaced those hacked systems with HPE Gen 10 systems because they were guaranteed unhackable and had the Cyber Catalyst Award from Marsh. Now, we have other solutions. We have other ways to solve the problem with DHCI. That's disaggregated HCI, where we separate the storage, yet still deliver the entire solution as appliance, singular console front end. And then, of course, we have the traditional, as I said, Synergy and Proliant, and of course, Moonshot, in order to have 15 HDI or hosted desktop infrastructure with 15 individual cartridges within this particular Moonshot 5U or 6U chassis in order to host physically individual one-for-one mapped virtual clients or remote clients. They're not virtual, they're remote, right? Lots of different ways we can do this. Now, and the platforms, just to see them a little differently, whether it's HCI or hyper-converged VDI or traditional VDI or DHCI VDI or composable VDI with Synergy or HDI, hosted desktop infrastructure VDI, or any of the graphic accelerated VDI using GPUs. By the way, all of these solutions on this screen here can all be accelerated via GPUs. Now, one of the things that I wanted to point out here is that the storage that maps these in clustered environments, we have just last week announced the new naming and new second generation of Nimble and of our Primera storage. And they're now in the new Elytra storage family. The Elytra 6000 is the formerly Nimble storage, and the Elytra 9000 being the former Primera storage. That's the Primavera of Italian storage that has 100% availability. Understand that we can deliver 100% storage availability in a platform that can be delivered in a private cloud environment that can free you up from those egress fees. And we have done this literally for one of the world's largest insurance providers that advertises pay for only what you need. Well, guess what? They're now paying only for what they need in IT because they're one of our latest HPE GreenLake customers, and we're saving them millions and millions of dollars by getting rid of all of those egress fees, by putting the data nearby the public cloud, literally across the street in a colo service provider's facility. And we'll talk about you in just a minute. Michael's going to jump back on, and we'll talk about how we can do that with Zunisys and the Zunisys colo facilities as well, or the colo facility providers that Zunisys is partnered with. Now we're looking at extreme versatility versus extreme scale versus extreme performance. That's another way of looking at these three different categories. And I've given you kind of some slideware here that helps you understand which are the right solutions that map to each of these with extreme scale and VDI or extreme performance and HDI. There's all different ways we can deliver this. And more importantly, understand that we can deliver this in a private cloud that is delivering the edge to the cloud. Now, I'm going to explain to you real quickly what I mean by GreenLake and this local buffer that you're seeing on the screen. Understand that most people have not just flat and tiered ways that their user, we're going to call it requirements, right? Or user demand. Corporate demand is not typically a nice vertical scale, nor is it a flat scale that scales up. However, traditionally, most people buy IT in 3-year chunklets. So they're buying 3 years of infrastructure. Meanwhile, the demand for those applications, the demand for the IT grows slowly. It takes about 2 years for those paths to cross. And all the money right here that was sunk into those assets that were implemented and purchased. By the way, we thank you for that because you bought more infrastructure than you needed, and you typically bought it for somebody like me, right? And I'm sorry about that. You know, if you're saying that we might have old you, if you're asking if we oversold you in the past, we probably did, which is why we've brought out HPE GreenLake to ensure that you get and you pay for only what you need when you need it. Now, what we're not going to do is allow you to run out. So we give you an extra 10% buffer while charging you for that 90% and allow you to scale up and scale down. More importantly, as your actual workloads scale up and scale down, if it scales down, we turn off that infrastructure and you stop paying for it. More importantly, you also stop paying for the software stack. And for all of you that are familiar with the cost of, let's just say, the VM tax, right? Sometimes the VM tax can cost more than the infrastructure itself. versus the licensing that it runs on. So understand that we've negotiated with VMware and Microsoft at least, so that when the hardware is turned off, the software licenses are also turned off, and you see those savings as a real savings. We can deliver this on a Citrix, a VMware, a Microsoft stack for task users, knowledge users, and power users alike. More importantly, give you a bill that's based on usage and give you money back. So let me explain what I mean by money back, because I talked about some of you may have accidentally had to implement things in the public cloud and borrow from FY21 funds or budgets in order to stand up what you needed in FY20 at the beginning of this pandemic. I apologize for all of you that had to do that, and I'm sorry that happened. The good news is we can help you get some of that money back. By standing up GreenLake, we can typically have the GreenLake solution in there in 2 to 5 weeks. We can then run it in parallel for 30 days. When you're safe and know that those applications are running in parallel exactly as they should, we can then start turning off the old infrastructure. HPE will buy back that old infrastructure, giving you cash for that, thereby funding months 4, 5, and 6, because you don't have to pay for anything till day 91, right? So if we're doing it right, if we're sizing it right, we're partnering with Zunisys to actually do the assessment and size the solution correctly, we can then take out some of that older traditional IT, give you cash back for that, and fund more months 4, 5, and 6 to the point where this becomes a self-funding project. More importantly, you get cash back to fund those projects that you did not have funding for in FY21. So this is a way that you save money. We can help you be the hero in your organization. More importantly, we can bring in the heroes that help make this happen. We have over 25,000 IT heroes or experts globally. We've delivered over 11,000 IT projects per year, and of course, across 80 countries and 30 plus ecosystem of partners. Zunisys is of course, one of our favorites. They've been a platinum partner since they've been in business for well over 12 years. And I can't remember, and I apologize, Michael, if it was 18 years, but I know it's been at least 12 to 15. But more importantly, as I mentioned here, we can help you defer or reduce those expenses, generate cash from the assets, and match the payments to what you use. Pay for only what you use. Now, lastly, I want to ask Michael to jump back on here, because I know that as a trusted advisor, his team has come on with their industry expertise and helped a lot of customers. And the subset of logos that you saw earlier is just a small subset. But I'm going to ask Michael to just say a couple things about some of the demos and proofs of concept and some of those other value-added deliverables that you can help the folks today with.
Yeah. So just to answer the one question, it's 16 years now.
There you go.
We've been
my
in
memory is so
business,
short term.
actually maybe going on 17 even.
That's fantastic, Michael.
So yeah, one comment I do want to make real quick on the SimpliVity. When you mentioned that, it's actually a 1 terabyte VM.
1 terabyte in 60 seconds.
In
God
less
bless
than 60 seconds for recovery.
Yeah.
I wanted to clear that one up as well. So the value of the channel, or what we can bring to the table, is we really try to be, as I stated up front, we really try to be your advocate, the customer advocate, to get the best possible solution for you. Whether that's a GreenLake opportunity or just hardware purchase or whatever, but whatever works best for our customer, we are your advocate. That's how we believe we become that trusted advisor, which every reseller, everybody wants to be, but we believe we have to earn that. That's something that does not come day one. That's something we have to earn over time. We do have that, like I said, the technical expertise to integrate, design, architect, assess your environments. We work with a lot of customers. We work with customers that are international, multiple locations. Work, and try to solve those problems on on that scale. We're working right now with a customer that has 6 offices, including one in Poland. So we can do these things, and we've done a full-blown assessment for them of their entire infrastructure, including circuits, including networking, security, server storage, everything.
So the good news is, Michael, I'm guessing if there's anybody out there that would like to talk in a little more detail and find out maybe even who that customer is, if they're in the same industry. I know you guys can do a confidentiality agreement if
Mhm.
you already have one with that customer, and dive a little deeper into that and look into doing, just an open chat to see if an assessment is the right thing for them, right? And this is
Correct.
really one of the things we want to make sure that everybody understands is we're open. We want to be as transparent as possible, and we'd love to share more details with you. So, basically, reach out to Michael, reach out to me. Let us, share with you some of these stories. More importantly, we've got lots of resources available for you. You are going to get this entire slide deck. We're also going to be posting the recording so you can share this internally across your companies and other coworkers here. We've got an ESG report with the key considerations for enabling remote work. We've got a desktop virtualization solution brief, and of course, the top 5 considerations for delivering a successful VDI deployment. We also have a solution that we just announced internally yesterday, and that is what HPE is doing to ready for opening up our offices, and what our Office 2.0, I think it's actually called Smart Office 3.0 is, and we can share those best practices with all of you as well. In the meantime, I want to ask and remind everybody, please, if you haven't done so already, if you have any ProLiant Gen 10 servers out there, you'd like to take advantage of that silicon root of trust and ensure that you can lock your systems down so that you can lock out those bad actors and ensure that your system's firmware remains unhackable, please go out to hp.com/info/ILO. That's www.hpe.com/info/ILO. Click on the Try ILO Advanced icon, and you'll be given and generated a real-time license for a fully functioning ILO Advanced license to turn on those advanced security capabilities. And this is a 60-day trial. We've been offering this since the beginning of COVID and before, and offered it permanently through COVID. So please go out there, turn it on again. If you turned it on already a year or two ago, please go out there and generate a new license key. Now, in the meantime, I think we probably have some questions out there in the Q&A chat window, and I'm going to ask Rachel if we have any questions from the audience. Please.
Sure. We have one. Are there any examples of an application or workload that doesn't translate well to a VDI environment?
Well, there always are. Michael, you want to address this one first? You want me to jump in? Your choice.
I'll let you go ahead.
All right. People are probably getting tired of my voice here. But you know what? If you'd have asked me that question 2 years ago, I'd say, yeah, you know what, or 3 years ago, there's a lot of high-end GPU requirements, and those are things that don't translate well. But the truth of the matter is that today we can do all of those, right? Especially with what we can do in HDI. However, so don't let the high-end graphics be the gating factor of whether or not you think you can do this VDI. However, if you have users that are in an extremely remote location where they don't have 4G, much less 5G, and they don't have a cable modem or a fiber optic line or anything else, they are relegated to, let's say, a microwave link or a satellite link, and it's not one of those new ones from the maker of Tesla, right? You're getting free 5G from a satellite. Then we probably cannot do that knowledge worker or medium worker. We could probably still do a task worker VDI solution for them, but I wouldn't try to do a medium knowledge worker or a high-end, certainly graphical user interface via VDI for those types of connections. Anything above that, absolutely. Michael, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. The bandwidth requirements and the latency
Right.
is what come into play, especially when you're looking at high-end graphics.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, hopefully that answers the question. Rachel, do we have any other questions?
Sure, we have one more. We were forced to push a lot of VDI into the cloud because of COVID. Now we're beginning to see that data egress fees are going up. Is there something that Zunisys or HPE can do to help?
There is. We talked about that one. Michael, I'm going to let you take that one.
Yeah, so Joe talked about that actually quite a bit. So there are options to change the way it's implemented so you don't have those egress fees. So whether that's an internal private cloud or whether that's a hosted desktop environment, there are definitely options for getting rid of those egress fees.
Absolutely. As they used to say, we have ways of getting rid of that problem in your environment. And I'm sorry for all of you that may actually speak with that accent, natively. I should not have chosen any particular one, but nonetheless, of course, we can solve that problem. We can get rid of those data egress fees. In fact, I can talk to you about what we've done for NASA and for several other customers. For NASA alone, we're saving them over $5 million nearly every month by getting rid of their data egress fees from what they had hosted in Amazon alone. So if you'd like to talk other scenarios and maybe talk to us about your own scenario and see if we can help you get rid of those data egress fees and just exactly how much and how we could do that, please give us a call. Drop Michael a line, drop myself a line. You can reach me at JoeV at HPE. That's JOEV at HPE.com. And of course, reach out to your Zunisys sales rep or your Zunisys solutions architect. We'd love to talk to you about architecting a solution that gets rid of egress fees permanently for you as well. Well, all right. Do we have any other questions?
Don't see anything else at this time.
All right. Well, I guess we still had a couple more minutes, but I guess if there's no other questions, and Michael, do you have anything else? I think you get the opportune moment to actually be the bookend here and
All
send us on
right.
our way. So what would you like to share?
No, I just want to thank everybody for attending. If you do have questions, as Joe said, reach out to him or reach out to me. My email address is just michael@zunisys.com. So if you do have some questions or want additional information or are interested in an assessment or just to finding out more information about some of the solutions he provided, we would love to talk to you. And again, thank you for attending.
Absolutely.
I appreciate your time, and I think we all appreciate the time it took to get on here and join us for an hour.
Yeah. So thanks for playing along with us from home or your home office or your actual office, wherever you may be this afternoon. And again, we will be sending out this deck. We'll be sending out a pointer to the recording. And if you'd like to hear from us a little more in detail or maybe talk about an assessment, please reach out. Thanks once again. Hope you have a great week. Be safe, be happy, be healthy, but do not be thirsty.